to talk about is the law director's legislation request form specifically says on there one of the things that's required for all requests is the assignment from council president. So have you seen a copy of the form like that
Yes.
we've okay,
Yeah.
so that form was not the assignment sheet, if you will, was not created by President Geringer.
I
That's
know.
been like decades old. I think utilizing that form is a great thing to do. Maybe updating that form and making sure that the law director's office knows, what we may update it to, like adding, a section for attendance or what have you. But evaluating that form, I think, would be a good thing. But that is one of the things that on her list is required.
No, I've got the
Okay.
general form. I don't see anything wrong with the form. However, I went back and looked at some of them, and some of them there were committee recommendations. Some of them didn't look like they were consistent in showing that there was a vote. It just kind of had a list of the names. And I'm not saying it was anybody's fault. I'm just trying to get to, we want it to be quite consistent, make it very clear. And the other thing that you might talk about as council folks, I hate for each of the committee chairs to have to be responsible for public records at their house. That that just that just to me seems unfair to folks. Because if all of us, pardon, the committee where those are kept isn't the problem's where they're kept. Not that you keep them and you can keep a copy of those, but what I'm saying is it seems to me that would be simpler that if those were then submitted and we had a file at the city so that anybody that wanted to come in and say, okay, I know there was a committee meeting on this day, they can go in there and they get it, and you're not going to get a request. It seems like a personal request to you. Okay, where's this? Because normally, if you ask for a public document from the state of Ohio, it's not going to be at someone's house. It just isn't. That's just not the way it would work. And I'm not saying there's anything wrong with it, but what I'm saying is we ought to try to make it easier on everybody. That's what I want to do, is help you folks. And you'd have the
Yeah,
document.
everything on a
Right. It's, and it works fine. I mean, that's what I'm talking about, is trying to make sure we've got all those things in a place where someone from the public that wants it, it ought to be right there and readily available. Because if somebody makes a public records request, um, in fairness, um, let's assume someone here is the chair of a committee and they want to have a week in Italy or Europe and don't want to be bothered. We probably shouldn't be telling someone who makes a public records request, well, we can't get it for you because this one person is out of town. Because they may say, I don't care where they are. So just think that through, talk it through. I think the form does well. I think what you've talked about is great. I just think we ought to make sure we get this all on the same page, like you've pointed out, that it just ought to be in a place where somebody can come in, take a look, and get the document. It's really to try to help you folks so you don't get more. You know, right? Yeah, they should. Right. Yep. 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 I'll, I'll, I will contact the law director on that issue and contact the mayor's office about, okay, where should this be? Where should this be stored, or where should we have these documents? Once again, sure.
We've talked about the mayor.
Well, no, here's what I'll say is, um, and it's up to this, yeah, up to this council, but I think there needs to be a vote, because there's a rule in there that says if somebody votes in the negative, they've got a right to dissent and say, I don't recommend this because. So if you don't take a vote, I don't know how that actually happens. So maybe votes are always being taken. I think it's a good idea, but this council ought to decide. But I think in fairness, there ought to be, but that's okay. I'm not. Well, we're not going to debate. Here's what I'm going to tell you. Here's what I understand, but here's what I'm going to tell you. And I don't know if it's a country western song or what, but somebody said, there's a reason that the windshield's so big and the rear view mirror is so small. And so we're looking forward for this council to do it the right way, and that's what we're going to do. And so these folks will talk it through, and we'll get to that point. I just mean, I don't want to go back and rehash anything else, because the importance is that we do it the right way now.
On the legislation request form, it even specifically asks approved by so-and-so members. So, I mean, it's part of it.
Yes, sir. Well, here's the problem. Well, yeah, I've seen a mix, but here's the issue that you should consider, and I think is important. Under almost every rule of order, minutes have to be approved at the next meeting before they're official. That probably isn't isn't happening on a regular basis. Not because anybody's trying to not do it right, but if it's a public meeting and there is a vote taken and there are minutes prepared, theoretically at the next meeting, just like we do here, there's a vote to approve and say, yeah, that's what actually happened by the members of the committee. Once again, I think the more consistent we are in how we do that, so that everybody, figures out how they think it works best, that's what we ought to do. But certainly that would make sense to me, because once again, our minute meetings for this council are not official until they're approved at the next meeting, because up to that point in time, they're essentially a draft. And that's under any of the rules I've ever seen for any committee, that's just the way it works. So that's just a thought as to why I think it's best that we go ahead and follow those kinds of procedures. Yep. I think that's right. That, that's what I'm envisioning. That's what I'm. Right. Yeah, yeah. Yeah, I'm talking to you folks. I think that makes it cleaner and clearer for the public if they actually review the document that's the minutes. I just think it makes it cleaner and clearer. But once again, um, I'll leave to the law director. If you have a different view, I'll take it to the law director and say, what do you think of this procedure? We'll do it whatever makes it easiest for you. Because once again, you're here to take care of the public. I know that's what your goal is, so that's what we want to have happen. Terry? Well, this is why we're having this kind of meeting, so everybody can hear the input. Those folks can talk about it. I'll get clarity. You're right in quoting the language because, like I say, not only have I dealt with this for years, I actually just took the took the course. So yes, I'm well aware of what that says. But the importance is that we get, you know, consistency for the folks. We clear it with the law director, and because once again, we've got excellent legal counsel, and we need to use them and get things clarified. So, any more discussion on that topic? No, I don't. I'm not. I'm not. I wasn't being. I wasn't being critical. I just meant that we. No, I recognize it, but once again, this is why a session like this is good, where we can talk about these things, and then everybody can have their input, and we can work together to make sure everybody is comfortable. It's right. We've gotten it cleared with the law director if we need to, and everybody just feels as though we're all working together, and that's really important. And as I said, everybody has been cooperative. I've gotten nothing but cooperation from everybody, not only on this council, but from the clerk, from the administration. So that's why I called this meeting, was to go through some of these things so that we talk it through and we figure out exactly where we are on those issues. I have one more, and then I'll open it up for everybody else. As you know, I presented to you several appointments from the mayor because they sent them as a batch. Um, it, resolutions and ordinances have to be passed by, uh, a normal roll call. These are just approvals of appointment. So at the next meeting, what I would suggest is, if we get one that has several people in it, is that if you contact me ahead of time and say, I've got a question about this person or this person, we vote on the ones that everybody is comfortable with and there are no issues, and we segregate and put those people that are problematic, not problematic, that's unfair, that somebody has a question about or wants more information about. Because I don't think there's any problem with doing them as a block, but I don't want anybody to feel like I'm just throwing them out there and you have to vote yay or nay on the whole group. That's not the point. The point is, if there are any questions, you can go ahead and say, I think there ought to be more discussion about either this position or this person, and then we'll go ahead, we'll refer it to committee, and we'll go through the process of interviewing or whatever and talking to that person. So that's my intention. If you have concerns about that, let me know, and we can look at that and talk about it. But a roll call on each person just seems like it seems like the kind of thing that the public will be wondering why they came to a meeting to sit through that, if it's everybody's getting a unanimous vote. If they're not, then we ought to address that. Any yeah, Here's here's the difficulty. The difficulty is it theoretically, I don't think takes an ordinance or a resolution. It's an approval by council. I got to look at it because the statute says certain things have to be by ordinance or resolution. But I'm going to talk to the law director about that. If I'm wrong and we have to go through it the other way, no big deal. It's just, once again, I'm trying to make it easy on the folks on council so that we're transparent. We let everybody know what's going on, but we don't just sit here and do something repetitively to see if we can, we can wear everybody out. Are there any issues that anybody has, either in the public or on council, that you'd like to talk about?
It would go out on that Friday. Yeah, you'd have to get it to me. Yeah, yeah, yeah. But if it comes to me by the, like the law director, so if I don't care to add it in. I just need you to get it to me, and then
Yeah, because but then you're right. You're absolutely right. And then it says the committee chair will submit it to the president and to the public. So now, once again, that's something we ought to look at. So we're not making it harder for you. Because if it comes here, and I get it to Kennedy, and it gets to the press, it's I don't know why. Yeah, we're making it right. Right. Should do it. Right. But
you want to book a committee meeting for that Monday, so seven.
it's just oddly worded. The way it's worded in the rules is, you notify me. Well, great. But then you're notifying the press or whatever the rule says. That doesn't make sense. That's right. Yeah, but if we my suggestion is that the way we would like to do, the way I would suggest we do it, and once again, this is up. The way I suggest is we would always send out the notice. If people want to announce it at the council meeting so the other members know that there's a meeting coming up, there's no problem with that. I just think that we should go ahead and have a formal notice that goes out and says, this is when the committee is, et cetera, because there is no statute or ordinance that I'm aware of that penalizes you for over notifying a meeting as opposed to under notifying a meeting. So I think we want to make sure that we get something out there to the public so that they can read it or know it's happening. So we get it out to the press, especially. So. Any other issues for tonight? Yeah. Yeah, the only reason I'm hesitating is I'm not sure there isn't a rule in there that I don't know what it says. So yeah, I just didn't know if it addressed um, your question of addressing directly to, or whether you come through the president to talk to. I, I'm not saying that's not the best practice. I'm not saying that's not a good idea. What I'm saying is, before I walk out of here tonight, I'm going to tell you I have not read through the rules. There's a discussion in there about contact with the administration. It may have nothing to do with what you're talking about. I just don't want to sit here and say, yeah, that's right, because I don't know. It's probably the best practice for you to talk directly. It's probably the right thing. If you notify me, that's great. But I just want to make sure that there isn't a rule that jumps out. As a member of that group of dinosaurs, I'm not going to be too critical of how it may have been done in the past. are there are there any other issues? Yes. But it might not be a bad idea for us to take a tour. You know, take a tour and let everybody go see what the buildings look like and see. Yeah, because I want to know if there's a worse building than this one on the list, but anyway,
I would-
I'll skip that for the moment.
That's good. Food for thought.
I'm absolutely, and that's why we're having these meetings. The one final thing that I'll say that that was raised by that discussion is that any kind of procedure that you're not sure about, let me know. So, for example, if if you need to make copies for your committee meeting, you know, how does that happen? I mean, it's not magic, obviously, but is it that machine? Is it the clerk makes them? You make them at home? You know, I mean, we've got to figure out what makes it easiest for you to do your job, is what I'm trying to do.
Now the problem with this, it's not connected to any wire. So I have to or use a flash drive. Get up here. I don't have wireless here, so I've got to do a hotspot for my phone, my laptop, and then so it's like the process of having to do, and then I don't want to take it home with me, so I can't scan from my house because I don't have all
Well, I think we've run through a lot of issues. I don't know if we've solved anything or created more issues, but the fact is, I thought it was important because there is no orientation for new people coming in. Um,
I think like what Mr. Williams said. I think what happened is that it was done like John Thompson did this for 40 years because he had a plan in place for all the new councils that he. So then I came on after the last election. So I think that we should President Shoemaker and Mayor Cheney and I talked about doing that, but I didn't know that there was huge.
no.
Yeah, yeah. I think it would be super helpful.
Understand. I think these are all great ideas. The one thing I will say as we wind up, um, the one thing I'll tell you as we wind up here is I have had some requests from the mayor for assignments, but I wanted to have this conversation with you folks before I started kind of in mass. All of a sudden, you're starting to get assignments before we got to have this opportunity to have the discussion. So that will change very soon. So I've got, you know, probably 5 or 6 that need to be done immediately, which will probably happen tomorrow. We'll go out. I will utilize the form we have in place until such time as we decide what to do to get it updated if we think it needs to be updated. But I just want to thank you all and thank members of the public for being here to be here in participation in this, because often these meetings just become so robotic. You know, we have to go through the issues that we have to get through. That I think this was very helpful. This will not be the last one that I'll call unless you folks all tell me you think it was not worthwhile and we shouldn't do it again at some point in time. So with that, since this is a committee meeting, I'm going to go ahead and just adjourn it at this point in time, because we've taken a lot of time. But I thank everybody for showing up. Thanks.
I literally said in my request.
What's that?
Public notice that public motion of
We we should go to the law director. Now, that's what this says, because I mean, they're the ones that ought to be doing that. I mean, hey, thanks. Hey, thanks, guys. I think this was helpful.
that's why I had a list.
Yeah, I'm just trying to figure out how we go through. Yeah, I mean, yeah, because I think it's just easier to have a discussion about some of these things. And once again,
It was like 200.
I know. Well, that's what I'm saying. But when, no kidding. Well, for example, just making copies costs money. I mean, and I don't know. Yeah.